Welcome to the newest episode of Beatin' and Bangin'. I'm your host, Kyle Dalton. In today's video, we're going to recap the Kyle Larson Invitational, also known as the Weekend at Bristol. The Hendrick Motorsports driver dominated, and we'll talk about that domination, but there were a lot of other interesting items from the weekend, including an interview with NASCAR President Steve O'Donnell, where he said multiple things I want to discuss. Fox doing Fox things, Denny Hamlin hitting another jackpot, and the weekend's worth of races, including Saturday's practice session where we had a big old case of deja vu. However, before we get to that, let's go back to Friday and a lengthy interview with the new NASCAR president, Steve O'Donnell. He had a 30-minute conversation on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio and discussed a variety of topics, including the racing this year and the officiating. You guys know I've talked about it on more than a few occasions, especially after the Xfinity Series madness at Martinsville, and how I think NASCAR needs to be a little more liberal on putting out the black flag, or basically just using it in the first place. O'Donnell talked about it.
What you guys probably refer to, and a lot of fans do, is that, the coming to the checkered, what's going on, what's happening, why aren't we making calls quicker? And I think you're seeing a transition from both Elton and John Probst to be able to use the technology we now have in race control. Listen, we used to, declare a winner or not declare a winner, right? Then we evolved to, hey, we're going to throw someone out if we had to at the racetrack, which was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe NASCAR did this. To now, I think people are looking at, hey, if there's an egregious move that everyone feels like is egregious, the ability to make that call on the spot. Granted, we got to get it right, but during that race in race control, it may take a little while to make that call up there, but not Tuesday. And I think that's what they're working towards is make those calls quicker. Make sure they're right, though. There's a lot on the line in these races, so you got to stand by it. But that's the goal. That's what they always want to do, and the technology is going to allow us to do that not only at the track but at the production facility where we've got the remote race control as well. So those guys are making the calls. They've got our support. If there's questions, we certainly have conversations every week, but we make adjustments.
The key words for me were make that call up there, but not Tuesday. And I think that's what they're working towards is make those calls quicker. That's all the fans have asked for. Stop waiting for 3 or 4 days to make the decision. If it takes 5 or 10 minutes, so be it. I know fans are willing to wait for it, but days later is not the way to go. Hopefully this is actually something they do. Moving on to his next comment of interest, and I know it's something you're not going to want to hear. Hell, even he admitted in his remarks it's not what fans want to hear. But he was asked about Denny Hamlin's remarks earlier in the week on the channel.
In a conversation earlier this week on the channel, Denny, when he was on with us after winning the Goodyear 400, Denny Hamlin, renewed I don't know if it's a request, the desire to have more horsepower. And this is something that we've heard from the garage a lot. We've heard from the fans a lot. From your perspective and the sanctioning body's perspective, what is stopping us from putting more horsepower into the Cup cars right now? Because folks say, well, just add this amount of horsepower. What are the ripple effects to prevent us from doing that?
Well, it's interesting that he would bring it up because, if we want costs to go way up, okay, we could do that tomorrow. If you want the OEMs to question why they're in the sport, and you want to go racing potentially without OEMs, and your costs to potentially go way up, we could pull that trigger tomorrow. And so I know fans don't want to hear that, but one of the reasons we're sticking where we are right now is you look at the potential for an engine platform with either new OEs or how we can maintain engines where they are today, multiple races, is to stick where we are in terms of the horsepower levels. So not to say we would ever rule it out, because it's something that's a lever we can pull. But at this point where we are from a cost and racing standpoint, we want to make sure that we've got a platform that is potentially available to new OEMs that are knocking on the door right now, looking at the sport, not just because of the next gen model, big part of it, but also where we may or may not go from an engine standpoint. So it could be something introduced, as you look, as new OEMs come in, okay, let's take this opportunity. But I'm not aware of a lot of engine builders who are knocking the doors down saying, make this change. And maybe I'm wrong on that one, but I have not heard that.
Once again, O'Donnell stuck to the party line and NASCAR's same old tired excuse of OEMs that are knocking on the door right now looking at the sport. How long have we heard that now? Years. As Hamlin said, make the change now and increase the horsepower. If a new OEM comes in and says that they can't produce it, then reduce the horsepower. Simple. But honestly, I really want to focus on his initial comments responding to the question when he said not once, but twice, if we want costs to go up. I focus on those remarks and return back to what Hamlin said last Wednesday, when he mentioned how engine builder Doug Yates said it wouldn't be that big of a deal and costs wouldn't increase much at all. So I went and found Yates' remarks from Talladega in 2023, where he said the following, quote, "If you remember 2 years ago, we had a 750 horsepower, 9,000 RPM package, and last year we went to a 6-set with a next-gen car, which is a 670 horsepower, 8,500 RPM package in an effort to extend the life of these engines, and it fit with this car. We have the same base engine as we had last year, so I think very easily, in my opinion, we could go back to 750 horsepower pretty quickly. I think that's not too hard, and it would not really increase the cost very much. Could we add 80 horsepower back? Yes. Could we go back to 900? That would be a pretty long runway to get there and probably add a lot of expenses due to just that life of the engine will be short. So to summarize, yes, we can add more power, probably 50 to 100 horsepower with not a lot of expense, in my opinion. I think we could do that pretty quickly. To go to 900 or 1,000, that's a whole different situation." Yates effectively shutting down NASCAR's argument on costs going up. And moving on to our last comment from O'Donnell's interview. And it's a change of pace. You won't be pissed at NASCAR after hearing this one. In fact, it's actually good and fun news if it were to actually happen. He was talking about the Gen 7 car and how it was inspired by the V8 supercars and their trip to Australia. And then he unexpectedly brought up something else they saw while visiting Down Under.
And John Probst and I went over to Australia, same thing. Learned a lot from what people were doing there. One of the cool things, we're not there yet, but can you imagine Bubba Wallace getting in practice at 11, and then at 1:30 he's got to put a second seat in his car and drive fans around, and that's what they do there. And it was pretty wild, and it's pretty cool on the same racetrack. So it was like, all right, we're not here yet.
I've not done the NASCAR racing experience yet. I really want to do one soon. But I can only imagine if you got to do a ride along with your favorite driver inside his car on the racetrack after practice, you would think it was an awesome experience. If they aren't going to give us more horsepower, at least give us that. Moving on to Friday night's Truck Series race, and there are a couple things of note. First, because I'm always following Frankie Muniz because I interview him and write race recaps, I really wanted to see what happened when he was involved in a wreck in the first stage. I wanted to see it along with everyone else, but as you might have guessed, the Fox cameras missed it. I mean, seriously, a half-mile track, and we don't have a good camera angle showing us what happened. Absolutely inexcusable. Moving to the final stage in that race, and Kyle Larson, after a speeding penalty, dropped back to 15th. On a restart with 83 laps to go, he steadily began making his way through the field. With 23 laps remaining, Larson had moved up to 5th. Then NASCAR put out the yellow for weather. Moments after the call, Larson's team radio questioned the decision.
Caution's out. Same for weather. I don't know if you got anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's just misting.
Is it bad? Windshield, like track or anything, or no?
No, it's not. It's fine. It's kind of just been this way, really, the whole race.
Yeah, I kind of figured that. That's why I was a little shocked when he threw the caution for it.
Killed a good race, for sure.
Killed a good race, for sure. But wait, there's more. NASCAR wasn't done. On the next restart, the trucks made it halfway around the half-mile track to the backstretch and were trying to avoid a fast-fading Bailey Curry. They were 4 wide with several making contact, but no one was sideways or wrecking when the tower put out another yellow flag. Up in the Fox broadcast booth, Joey Logano summed it up best.
And I don't know what the caution was for.
They kept it all straight to Michael's point. We've got Andres Perez.
No one did, Joey, but NASCAR officials with the quick trigger once again affecting the race. And now let's move on to Saturday and Cup Series practice and qualifying. Watching it, everyone on the broadcast, on the track, in the garage, and in my office was having a case of deja vu. It was the 2024 spring practice all over with tires cording. And we know what happened the next day in the race. It was wildly entertaining with tire conservation the main strategy, and Denny Hamlin proving that he was the best at implementing that strategy. But that was last year. Now, before we move on to Sunday's race, which you all know where this is going, I want to talk about a couple of other things. First, the qualifying session after practice and a couple of blunders Mike Joy made that I thought were worth noting. Take a listen.
All right, we move into Group 2 with Eric Jones, who got his first Cup pole at Bristol in August of 1917. 3 top 5 starts this year. Chase Elliott started top 10 in 12 of his 15 Bristol starts. Here's the Napa Auto Parts Chevrolet.
The responses on Reddit to both blunders were hilarious, including one person talking about how good Eric Jones looked for being over 100. But I thought one fan summed it up best. August of 1917, this is what people are talking about when they question whether Mike Joy should still be announcing. I know Mike Joy is revered, and justifiably so. He's been doing this for more than 50 years. He's 75. But there comes a point when it's time to step away. I wish I could say these mistakes are rare. Unfortunately, as the person commented, they've become all too commonplace. But it's Fox, so I don't expect anything to change. One other thing from Saturday. Denny Hamlin found a casino in Tennessee later that night and found a machine similar to what he hit it big in Las Vegas last month. He didn't hit it as big, but $5,000 is nothing to sneeze at. And finally, let's move on to Sunday's race. I will tell you the first thing I noticed wasn't whether or not the tires were going to fall off, but the team radios on Max's in-car cameras weren't working. And I wasn't the only one. The Athletics' Jeff Gluck mentioned it on X. I have no idea what was going on. I thought it might have been a glitch and it would have been fixed at some point during the race. Unfortunately, the radios never came on. I did reach out to Max for comment on the matter and haven't heard back. We'll let you know if I do. And now, let's talk about that race. What do I even say? I guess I'll start by saying it was nothing like last spring's race at all, as everyone thought it might be after Saturday's practice. Instead, it was just like last fall's race there. I'm talking eerily similar. How similar, you ask? In the fall, Kyle Larson led 462 of the 500 laps, won both stages, and won the race. Yesterday, Larson only led 411 laps, swept both stages, and won the race. When the beatdown came to an end, Larson led Denny Hamlin by more than 2 seconds. But get this stat, there were only 7 other cars on the lead lap. If I'm being honest, I was thinking about all you folks who are against stages and thought, he might have lapped the entire field had it not been for the stage breaks. That was due in large part because there was only a single caution for cause in that first stage. Yeah, 1. Listening to SiriusXM NASCAR Radio this morning on my walk, and I heard the callers frustrated by the race. I was too. But another caller made a good point and compared it to every sport, suggesting that there are blowouts, which is true. That happens all the time. But it's happened twice on this track in the last year by the same driver. And the other point is, while there was some passing as evidenced by William Byron, who went from 26th to 6th, and Ross Chastain, who went from 35th to 7th, there were only 4 lead changes. Once after Larson took the lead from his HMS teammate Alex Bowman on lap 40, another when Larson came to pit road during a green flag stop on lap 389, and when Larson reclaimed the lead from Ryan Blaney, who ran long on that same pit cycle. Translation, there weren't any lead changes, there weren't any cautions, and there wasn't any action. Yeah, a couple of drivers were frustrated a couple of times, but nothing really worth mentioning. The race, or lack thereof, was the big storyline. I did want to mention one other thing from the race, and that was another loose wheel. I don't know if you saw it, but Daniel Suarez's rear tire changer needs to go play the lottery, because this dude's luck was incredible yesterday. The Fox camera showed it when it happened, but the number 99's overhead pit box camera shows it so clearly, and how damn lucky this guy was from dodging the missile coming his way. Just absolutely incredible how close it was to hitting him, and the fueler was also fortunate, as you can see the tire hits the can and deflects off of it. Just a reminder that these guys who jump over the wall are fearless and damn good at what they do. All right, guys, that's a wrap on today's episode. We covered a lot of different topics, and I want to hear what you thought about all of them. Let's go back to the Friday remarks of NASCAR President Steve O'Donnell. There were 3 of them. Take your pick. His thoughts on NASCAR officials improving their timeliness on calls, towing the party line on OEMs and cost increases as the reason for not increasing horsepower, And I'm really curious to hear what you guys think about the idea of ride-alongs with your favorite driver in his car on race weekends. Speaking of NASCAR officiating, if you watched the Truck Series race, what did you think of those 2 late cautions? And moving on to Sunday, I'm curious for you Max watchers to get your thoughts on the team radios being absent. Were you as frustrated as everyone else? And lastly, is there really anything to say about that race? Go ahead, I'm all ears. One quick reminder, after Sunday's race, I guess you could call it that, we are 9 races into the season. I'm going to have a couple of fun videos this week where we have our first quarterly review, including a roundtable with a couple of guests, and we're going to recap what we've seen so far. And finally, one order of business. As you know, I'm a writer at Athlon Sports, and I oversee the website's racing coverage. I'm looking for an IndyCar writer, not NASCAR, but IndyCar. If you have some experience writing and want to cover the sport, or know someone else who might be interested, please shoot an email to kyle@beatingandbanging.com. This is a great opportunity to cover motorsports and make some money. Thanks again for checking out the latest episode and supporting the channel. I really, truly appreciate it, and hope you have a great rest of your day.